Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome back to Ramadan Reflections for 2020. Today, being the 8th day of the blessed month of Ramadan, we want to review the topic of working towards spiritual purity based on verses 107 and 108 of Surah At-Tawbah, chapter number 9, in which Allah says,
وَالَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا مَسْجِدًا ذِرَارًا وَكُفْرًا وَتَفْرِيقًا بَيْنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وإرصادا لمن حارب الله ورسوله من قبل وليحلفن إن أردنا إلا الحسنى والله يشهد إنهم لكاذبون لا تقم فيه أبدا لمسجد أسس على التقوى من أول يوم أحق أن تقوم فيه رجال يحبون أن يتطهروا والله يحب المطهرين.
As for those who took to a mosque for sabotage and for defiance and to cause division among the faithful and for the purpose of ambush used by those who have fought God, fought Allah and His Apostle before, they will surely swear, we desire nothing but good, and Allah bears witness that they are indeed liars. Do not stand in it ever. A mosque founded on God-wariness from the very first day is worthier that you stand in it for prayer. Therein are men who love to keep pure, and Allah loves those who keep pure. As Muslims, as hard as it is, however, we must learn to develop a deeper insight into the world around us. Many times in the world of politics, we listen to those who have the loudest voices, the flashiest ads, or are promising the largest tax breaks. We many times fail to recognize and separate the fact from fiction. And the same goes, unfortunately, for the field of religion as well. Many of us become mesmerized by those who dress the nicest, who have the largest turban, the most elegant of beards, who speak the best English, and who would attract the largest crowds to their speaking engagements. Whether in the sphere of politics or, as we said, even in the sphere of religious issues, we cannot be satisfied with the mere outward appearance of the issues. We need to delve deeper into what we see on the outside periphery view. We need to dig deeper, and we need to understand the realities before we move forward and take any step. Even in something as important and what some may think as trivial as our prayers. Even acts of worship, they need to be carried out in the right place. Now, in these two verses, the Prophet of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him and his family, and as an extension, the Muslims are being told that even though two masjids, two houses of God were built for the sake of Allah, they must be analyzed with the correct lens. This verse, or rather these two verses, relate back to a historical event which took place in the city of Medina. Historians note that a group of Muslims, who were actually hypocrites, munafiqun, they had built a masjid in or just on the outskirts of the city of Medina. However, they built it in order to cause disunity amongst the believers. They built it to promote hypocrisy, and they built it as a base for the disbelievers to gather and to launch attacks against Islam. They claimed that this masjid was built for the sick, for the underprivileged, those who could not make it to the Masjid of Quba because of the distance, and so they needed an alternative mosque as well. However, after the masjid was built, the builders met with the Prophet and they asked him to come and bless their project, perform his prayers there, consecrate this house of God. However, the Prophet, according to the historical narrative, delayed in accepting their request and actually had to set out shortly thereafter for the Battle of Tabuk. Eventually, obviously, he returned back to Medina, and these verses of Surah At-Tawbah were revealed, exposing the true evil intentions behind the construction of this building. Keep in mind, it was a masjid, but it wasn't a purified masjid. After the revelation of these verses, the Prophet ordered some companions, 2 particular companions, to go and physically destroy the masjid and whatever was left over, to set that on fire. The Prophet also ordered that the land where that masjid once stood should now be used as a garbage dump for the region. That's the level of disgust he had with this plot against Islam. In summary, as believers, we need to be people who investigate behind things before we blindly jump on the bandwagon, even religious realities. We have to be careful of who we follow, politically and religiously. Ultimately, Allah loves those who are working on self-purification, and as such, they cannot be people who are pushovers, who are gullible, who are naive, simple-minded believers. As we conclude with our final point for today, the spiritual value of a location is based on numerous factors, including the people who frequent that place. Not necessarily the physical makeup of the building, its construction costs, or its decorations. Thus, the value of a masjid, of a house of God, is based on the people who frequent that particular building. It has very little, if anything, to do with the dome or the minaret or the calligraphy. And current history has shown that even those people and places which are called holy or sacred, they can be steeped in corruption. And as such, we must not be enticed by the deceptive appearances that we see. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.